right, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Michelle Duquette. I am a cybersecurity advisor supporting the federal government, military, and Fortune 500 companies for over 10 years. I started out as a system admin with Lockheed Martin, and at the same time, I began delving into computer hacking and using the tools of the trade. While there, I obtained Certified Ethical Hacker certification and also CISSP. From there, I moved into the world of consulting. I joined Booz Allen Hamilton, and I got to develop my security engineering skills. And at the same time, I also pursued a master's degree in computer science. From there, I then moved on to working with Patel. I've been working with integrated product teams, and I've advised senior leaders on the issues of security engineering, cybersecurity policy management, and information risk management. What I wanted to now delve into is explaining how cybersecurity can be a field that a lot of folks can actually move into, especially within the technology background. I know on the slide, I believe it's up, that it cites that there is going to be a very big lack of cybersecurity workforce in the next couple of years. And across the country and also within the federal government, it's a big concern. There's a deficit of potentially, folks that do not have the background, whether it's a technology background or if it's experience. And there's also, what feeds into that is the unknown of what type of jobs we will need going forward. So one of the tools that has been in development is called Cyberseek. And I apologize for not having a slide deck available to actually be able to show this, but there is the cyberseek.org, and that website was put together by NIST and CompTIA, along with another organization, to try to show the amount of cybersecurity jobs and also the areas for folks that they can move into. I would say that if you're looking to make a change into, or if you're new into cybersecurity, definitely check out the cyberseek.org website. So they have two tools. One is an interactive heat map, and from there you can show, or it will show you the most in-demand cyber jobs, the skill sets and the number of job openings for each state and also by metro area. And so you can then also delve into the second tool that they have, which is called Pathways. And that is also an interactive tool, and it shows, key jobs in cybersecurity, the most common, feeder roles that folks start out in and then move into cybersecurity. One of the great things with it is that if you can click on, any of the job roles that it offers, and it will show you, an average salary, the total job openings, education types, and then top skills required, and also top certifications most asked for by the job posting agencies. And so if there's, the idea of you want to transition to cybersecurity, but you don't know where to start, this tool will help guide you. If you're looking at trying to write your resume, you can also use this tool to kind of help highlight the skill sets that, companies are most looking for. And if you're looking to move into it, what type of certifications that the most in-demand job are looking to have. All right, so then next is going to delve into certifications. And I know that for the other presentations we had last week on security architects, there was different viewpoints. And within the federal government, if you're looking to have a supporting role either as a federal contractor or directly as a government employee, there are requirements for certifications. Those certifications, it's listed publicly. They are also tied to what's shown on the cyberseek.org website. And they can vary depending on the job role and the job title and the background of that role. So for example, the most common are Security Plus, there's the CISM, CISSP, GIAC, and then there's even ones for like ITIL and for pen tester. So if you're concerned about whether or not you might need certification, one of my recommendations would be to go and check that out and kind of get an idea of what is required. Another way to do it is also, if there is a company that you're looking to work for, to look at their open job positions and then see whether or not certifications are required, or if they're a desired skill set to have. And that will kind of help, give you an understanding of where you need to be when you do your job searching. And there's also another item is, vendor training and certifications. There's Splunk has some great trainings to help you understand their tool. There's also Tenable. If you're looking to, delve deeper into, a specific field within cybersecurity, a lot of companies will look for, specialty expertise in certain cybersecurity tools. Another idea to keep in mind is when you're looking at certifications, it's not necessarily recommended to, get a whole 10 of them or every one that you can get just because you can. A lot of certifications have annual maintenance fees and continuing education requirements. So do keep that in mind if you're looking to get, multiple certifications from different certification agencies, because they will all have their own requirements to maintain those certifications. So don't go overboard. Keep in mind that they do have expiration timelines, so they may not be good or they may not be relevant to your job search, maybe 5 years or a couple of years down the road. And then in keeping with the idea of other items to add to your resume, there's Etfs and Challenges. I know one of the items that is a good place to find potential other folks in cybersecurity that share the same desires to meet up is actually meetup.com. You can find one in your area. I know from one of my employers definitely does the meetups to try to meet folks that are engaging and want to do capture the flags. I know they do, there's cryptopals.com. Folks will get together and kind of work through crypto puzzles. There's also another one called, I believe, Pony Adventure. There's other ways that you can also then start to expose yourself through trainings. There's Cybersecurity and Coursera. They tend to offer free training classes. So for any folks that are coming from, technology background, or if, you don't have a technology background, but you're interested and you want to learn more and see if it's something that does interest you, definitely recommend between the Cybersecurity and Coursera. There's definitely something out there for everyone to kind of poke through and see what's most engaging to them. To keep going kind of down the list of some other activities to kind of help engage you and, expand your professional experience or your informal experience. There's the National Cyber League. The National Cyber League is a defensive and offensive puzzle-based capture the flag style competition. You can participate as an individual competitor, and you can also participate as part of a team. So what's great about this program is that it provides you a performance report on your strengths and weaknesses, and then it can also tie those back to the type of items that job seekers are looking for. So if there's a skill set that you're weak on, you can help use it to identify those deficiencies and then be able to work towards them. Another one is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies. It's a long acronym. They have a training catalog, and that provides a very, it has a lot of courses, a lot of training classes, most available for free. But they do vary, and they do vary based on your area. A lot of them are online, and then a lot of them are also instructor-led and might need a classroom. And then if you're interested in conferences, there are many, many conferences. So last weekend or the weekend before, there was the Women in Cybersecurity Conference, or shorthand to WICSES. And that one had together, I think, over 1,500 participants, most students, and then professionals. There's also, there's B-Sides, there's ShmooCon. The RSA conference that's held in San Francisco is one of the biggest ones. That one tends to have, 30,000, attendees plus. One of the other areas that I wanted to bring up was also involvement in professional organizations. Joining organizations, they are key in helping to retain us in the field. There are, the most common ones, again, is the WICSES one for women in cybersecurity. But there's also ISACA and ISSA and ISC squared. They're very good at having student membership. So if you're still a student and you're concerned about cost, a lot of them provide, either an affiliate membership or a student membership, and you can join for either no cost or low cost. And it does introduce you to those folks in the field that have been in the field and that have many years of experience. A lot can provide, either informal or formal mentorships and also kind of help, expose you to the broader world of cybersecurity. That said, there's a lot of information. One idea that I wanted to stress again is to kind of, with this information, a lot of what we look for is folks that have a combination of, professional and formal experience, education, and certification. So when you're maybe just graduating, keep in mind of, what areas you're deficient in one of those, and kind of try to work and build that up. I know that there's some companies I've heard of that do not hire folks that haven't had a job before. And so even if it's, just trying to work and engage with, an organization and doing volunteer work or something, informal, but enough to, expose you to how an organization, flows and how communication works, that's a good avenue to have. And with that, I will leave open to any sort of questions.
Oh, there we go. We have a first question. Hello, Michelle. I'm working as a pen tester, and I would like to transition to more of a security developer role. What skills would I need to develop?
One of the things, I guess, from my experience are trying to get involved and understand the, agile Scrum methodology. If you're a pen tester and if you have existing knowledge on secure coding, that would be a very important skill set to add. I know that there is also, with ISC Squared, they do have a certification for software lifecycle professional. And, even if you don't want to get the certification, they do have a book, and that will kind of help guide you and understand some of the software side of it. And then I'm trying to think, I know that there's also the Software Engineering Institute, and they put out some secure coding type. There's a lot of folks that do enter the field that don't necessarily have traditional technology backgrounds. And one of the comments, folks have when I try to engage people and I try to have, folks get interested in cybersecurity is, they tend to think like, it's not for me. I don't have the hands to keyboard exporting coding experience, but really having, just the desire to join the field will get you far. There's, we can always, train on the hard stuff. We can always train people on any sort of skill sets. It's the desire and the interest to want to move into cybersecurity that really makes it.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for joining us.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to our second presenter, Renee Pollock.
My name is Renee Pollock. I work as a senior security engineer for a startup called WeWork. And at WeWork, I head up the incident response team there. So Michelle kind of mentioned a lot of like what people do to get into security the traditional way, which is probably get a computer science degree or start hacking video games when you're a kid. That was definitely not my path when I was a kid, and pretty much until my first semester in college, I wanted to be a doctor. So I took bio classes. I was studying Grey's Anatomy as a kid. Like I was a full-on, I'm gonna be a doctor. I was then in my first year of college and I needed to take an elective. So I took, I think it was called Information Security 101 or something along those lines, which was super high level just to fill an elective. And I was interested in medicine because I wanted to solve problems. I wanted to make a difference. So I took this information security course and I fell completely in love with it. It was really about solving really wonky problems and having that same cat and mouse game between bad actor and good actor as you do with germs and doctors. It's that kind of continuous, never-ending cycle of new puzzles, new solutions, and iterating on those two things. So I was so into information security, I decided to change majors, change colleges, and go to NYU and join the Scholarship for Service program, where basically you can do college for 2 years and the government or the US government will pay for that with the option that when you leave, you work for the US government for 2 years later. So it's kind of a way to help with that gap that the government has for lack of folks who are kind of excelling and have these security expertise by kind of saying, hey, if you go to a college, just expand your knowledge, we'll support you and if you come and work with us. I was doing that for 2 years. The government went on furlough. So I went to a private sector job, and the government was still on furlough, and I was like, I want to stay at my private sector job at a finance firm. So I was there for 3 years doing what we call blue teaming. So in security, there's kind of like this whole cat and mouse game, right? And where you say folks who are defending are called blue. That falls under the folks who do like operations, who do vulnerability assessments, who handle incidents when they come and a bad actor is successful. And so I was doing most of that. I then left my financial firm after being there for 3 years, and I was like, I'm going to do a change and go into penetration testing, which is this kind of like red team offensive security. I'm going to try to pretend to be the bad guy so that we'll catch bugs prior to when the bad guy finds them. I decided to go to WeWork, which is a co-working space across the world. And I'm actually more than just co-working these days. We have everything from education, including Flatiron School, which is a coding boot camp. Meetup.com is actually under the We Company umbrella. I went there to start doing pen testing. I did that for a year at WeWork under the information security team, and I realized, you know what, I really miss my like blue team defensive days. I'm going to kind of stay within the information security team, but pivot a bit. So I went from a pen tester and moved to incident responder, which is where I am now. So I went from a researcher when I was in college, when I was doing stuff for both the government and private sector. I would do research in terms of malware forensics, mobile malware forensics. I did like server forensics. I worked on a lot of like litigation cases as part of the expert witness team. So if there was let's say a divorce case, they would then say like, here are some computers and phones. Can you see if someone had these particular pictures on them or files on them? Or if there was a case regarding if an employee thought they weren't getting the proper overtime, they would have us look at their servers and see if they were logging in during non-working hours, doing work events. I was a full-on like in the weeds researcher when I was in college, went to be a blue teamer and kind of all around. I did compliance when I was at my financial firm, went to pen testing as a red teamer, and then went back to incident response. I did all that within the course of like about 5-6 years, all under the umbrella of information security. So I think it's kind of really good to note that when someone says, hey, I'm an InfoSec, like it's a super big umbrella. And what we kind of all have in common is this desire to solve puzzles and to make the companies that we work for more secure, and those who leverage our companies for either financial transactions, to go to a meetup, to rent a space, to do whatever, they feel really confident that their data and their usage of your application is done in a really secure, private, and compliant way. So that's kind of an overview of like what I currently do. I want to mention a couple other things in terms of what information security is and why it's, I think, one of the coolest jobs ever, and the different other aspects of it besides of what I currently do. What's really interesting about the different areas is no matter where you're from, so whatever background you have, whether it's in biotech, finance, if it's in education, regardless of where you come from, you can apply that to information security. So if you're in biotech, there's a super specific niche within information security about reviewing the vulnerabilities in biomedical technology. Things that are like considered IoT or embedded systems. There's a very like unique niche. And if you have a background, let's say biotech, you're uniquely qualified to excel in that area. If you come from a finance background, you then understand like how finance systems work, how money moves from system A to B to C and backwards, how different like laws and compliance standards and jurisdictions impact how we handle data. And so there's a huge niche there too, of like whether you want to do compliance or you can do like architecture reviews, and you have like that section that where you are great at it and you can excel there. If you're a part of education, we actually have a whole team dedicated to educating our employees about how to be more secure at WeWork and in their daily life. And so if you've never touched a computer or don't know much about like the actual information security, like let's say like computer sciencey part of it, like the nuts and bolts of the ones and zeros, that's fine too. You can make a huge impact in information security by taking what you already know and leveraging that knowledge to make the InfoSec community better. I really hope that when you leave this talk and you forget about most of it, you know, tomorrow, a month from now, whatever, that you feel really confident that wherever your background is, you can find a way to apply that to information security and excel there. I know this is mostly, I think, women on this call, and I personally find that throughout most of my career, I've been incredibly lucky about working with incredible people. I know computer science and information security and most technology careers in general are a very, very male-dominated field. the one good thing about being in a STEM career in general is that most of our professional abilities to grow is based on merit. So it's not a lot about who you are, what your gender is, how you identify yourself. It's really about how good are you at your job and how much do you add to the team. And I think that's a really awesome thing when I have friends in other industries where they really struggle with that, where it's not a merit-based system. It's more of a, oh, you went to a fraternity with my other friend, or you are the brother of someone else. And while it definitely happens, it happens in every industry, I feel like it's a little bit less in kind of STEM-related things because of how much merit impacts the ability to actually perform your job. I think also, if you're from New York, we have a really strong community. Michelle mentioned like meetup.com. There are a ton of meetups that we have in New York. There are a ton of conferences and just general folks that are part of the information security community who love it. I would like to think, since I'm part of that community, that we're decent people and we really want to share our passion about our jobs and our professions and it's a hobby as well for most of us. To others, and make sure that we might be slightly nerdy and maybe not the most socially out there, but we love it and we want people to enjoy it and to experience it and to make sure that both companies around the globe and personally people have the tools and abilities to protect themselves. So and Michelle had mentioned that she works for the government or works on behalf of the government and military. And so there are some really interesting folks that you get to play cat and mouse with. So it can be sometimes anyone from nation states, which is super complicated and incredibly diverse in terms of their attack vectors and what you see on a daily basis, to maybe a kid in a basement trying to play out this new tool. And so what's really, really fun about information security, especially what I think on the blue team kind of defensive side of it, is that you get to see how things evolve. So as geopolitics evolve, as companies evolve, as people evolve, as technology evolves, as like interest alliances evolve, so does information security, and so do the threats that we view. So there's really nothing that happens in the world that does not impact our lives, and nothing that we do that does not impact the world. So whatever we make, whatever we do, and whatever we see on a daily basis impacts how things work. So I'm sure most of you have been to a Target or at least seen a Target. When Target got breached, it was huge news for multiple reasons, because it impacted their stock price. It impacted their ability for their customers to trust them. It impacted an institution within America about how it handles its data and how it can trust like HVAC and third-party vendors. And so I think it's really awesome that we get to kind of a central cornerstone of that conversation about how we handle data and how we handle security and privacy and compliance and overall trust. We are the cornerstone of trust for most organizations, and that's a huge responsibility to have. It's a very strong responsibility, but it's also incredibly fun, and you get to work with a ton of different people. Like, you're never really siloed in a basement. I won't guarantee that you'll have lots of light in every office that you're in, but you'll definitely work with people across verticals of your organization, since you do touch all of their respective areas. So that's kind of my like super high level overview of like InfoSec from like my point of view of a less traditional path, why I'm really passionate about it. And I hope that you guys see that even if you're not passionate about it, to have it be a career change, to maybe at least look into it and figure out like how you personally or professionally can just take a look and see what we offer. Before I kind of go any like deeper into anything else, I want to kind of ask if there's any questions or areas that you want to talk about specifically in terms of career path or research or anything else of that nature. How important is it to know development for a security engineer? Super good question. So it depends on what aspect of security engineering you want to be in. So just for some background on myself, just so you kind of see where I'm coming from this question, is that I did 2 years of computer science and 2 years of information security. So I think it's always helpful to understand basic computer programming, maybe like basic Python or basic Bash, not just for security engineering, but just like in general. I strongly believe that it'll be the next kind of area of literacy that will impact people's ability to grow. So I think in general, like as a baseline, you should know something. You should know how it works. Maybe run a quick line or two of Python or something like that to help you make things go faster, to read other people's code, to understand where they're coming from in terms of the conversations. That being said, if you want, there are definitely some aspects of security engineering, especially in the compliance area, in the education area, in project management, where you kind of also work with a lot of security engineers, where you don't really need to know that much development. But I would say if you want to be like a true blue team, red team, and that kind of dynamic of security engineering, you should know like maybe the first level of like Python. I personally like Python, but whatever flavor of programming you want to try. Okay, another question. Thank you. The question is, what's the career path to move to red team? That's a super interesting question, since Michelle got a question almost in the reverse. I would say if you're coming from a blue team background where you're a defender or already in security, I think it's a kind of a two-pronged thing. I think one is your thought process. So I kind of like purple team myself, which is a red and blue combined, where when I get an alert or an incident or something coming in from my response side of things, I try to figure out in my head, well, what did the attacker do that let it get to where I'm sitting now? So what controls did they bypass? What was their process? What was their thought? What was their goal? Why do they go through this chain of events rather than that chain of events? So kind of purple teaming it in your mind to understand what the attacker is thinking will help you get better into red team, and also make you better at a blue teamer, because you'll understand where they're coming from and create better controls. So it's actually really common for blue and red teams to work together to come up with a purple team strategy where we literally thought experiment against ourselves and say, well, if I were to do this, what would you do? And then, well, I would do that. And then I'd say, well, I would do X. It's a really cool experiment to do with your teammates or even with yourself. The second approach I would do is CTFs. Capture the flag competitions. That's how I really got into red teaming. They're a control, ethical, legal way to practice offensive security. Let me emphasize that like incredibly strongly. Offensive security is a ton of fun. It's awesome. It's a great career path, but please make sure that you do it in a legal, ethical, and in a respectful way. Don't just try to like hack the next company. There are ways you can do it in a controlled environment. Like CTFs, there are lab environments or even virtual machines that are meant to be exploited. Those are a really good way to get hands-on keyboard experience and figure out like why something works, what something does not work, why certain controls impact you or don't impact you, get used to some of the tooling, and it's just a ton of fun. And you get to work with other folks. A lot of CTFs are like team-based, so you can join other people who are also about to go into red teaming or already in a red team, and learn from them a lot about how to go on that path. All right, awesome. Another question. What would you differentiate between pen testing and red teaming? Okay, that's an awesome question. So it depends on who you ask. I personally consider pen testing to be another very large scope. There's different types of pen testing. You can do web application pen testing, you can do IoT or embedded systems pen testing, you can do infrastructure pen testing, you can do network pen testing, you can do a ton of different types of pen testing. So pen testing is a really broad range. People think, when I say pen testing, I think most people think I mean web application pen testing, which is like when you are given an application, let's say like Facebook, and they want you to hack it. No, don't hack Facebook though, just like as an example here, like a web application, but it's way more beyond that. Red teaming implies any kind of offensive security. While pen testing is definitely part of that umbrella, I would include physical pen testing, or physical kind of offensive security, which is depending if you consider it pen testing or not, where you actually get into physical buildings, you try to go into doors or data rooms or data closets. There are like a whole consulting firms who are based on like physically entering buildings and test physical security controls as long as like technical controls. I also consider red teaming to be, I would say, the intent. Like if you're doing something in security that's meant to test controls and push controls and be offensive in nature, you're in a red team kind of situation. Pen testing is kind of unique in that it tends to have a really specified scope and a very clear-cut like end goal. And sometimes red team events can be a little bit longer term or a little bit more gray in terms of their start and finish, but they can be used synonymously. It really depends on who you work for and what they consider it to be. But when you think of pen testing, don't just think of like web application pen testing, kind of go beyond that and think about what other systems exist and how you can offensively test those things.
If there are no more questions, then I will thank Renee and Michelle for today's presentations. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for joining. And if you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever. But thank you so much.